EFF leader Julius Malema has called on party members to practice revolutionary demands that can lead to the killing fields at some point. He says if needs be, there must be bloodshed. Malema was addressing delegates earlier during the Western Cape Provincial People's Assembly in Cape Town. For more on this, we are joined by political commentator Solly Moeng. Dr. Moeng, a pleasure to have you on the program this evening. Well, firstly, Malema addressed the Brackenfell protests where EFF members were beaten by what the party describes as whites. During his address, Malema also said that a revolution demands that at some point there must be killing. Could this border on stoking fears over violence, or is this simply political talk?
Well, it's more than political talk. Hello, and to your viewers out there. Look, this is not acceptable. It should never be acceptable in South Africa. If the pain in South Africa is that the criminal justice system has proven to be somewhat afraid of Malema. The police are afraid of Malema. We've seen him appear in court processes, but they don't seem to go anywhere. They have to stop this man. If they cannot find local solutions, they have to find international solutions. Because if you look at the history of South Africa, you cannot afford to have this country going back to where it was before. We come from a really painful history based on one race group hitting one another. It's changed hands, the English or the Africans on the black, and all that. We cannot afford to have a politician who is represented in parliament making those kind of statements. I think he should stop. He should know that he's really causing a lot of pain, a lot of fear in parts of the community in South Africa. And a lot of people are going to take him to his word. People who don't really go into the details of what gets said, and they don't look at it and say, oh, it's just politics. They're going to go into what he says and says, maybe we should act on Malema's word. We should not be, no politician should make those kind of statements in the current day in South Africa with everything going on, and especially with where we come from as a country.
Now, listening to Malema, he also reacted to AfriForum's leave to appeal that application against the Dubuli Bono or Kill the Boer ruling, saying that he will again defeat the lobby group. It appears that this battle is far from over as it plays out in the court.
Yes, well, I support AfriForum really going back to appeal the ruling. I think that nobody today, I believe, irrespective of what you look like, what race group you come from, should be making song or making statements that makes racial threats against somebody else. Think of little Afrikaans or Boer kids, if you want, who hear adult black people singing songs about killing. What would you say as a black person if your child came back home to say, I heard Boer or white children singing about killing the K people, the black people? You would not be happy. You would actually be very, very outraged by it. So why, if you can be outraged, can you not accept that somebody else can be outraged at hearing people singing about killing their own people? I mean, it's nonsense to say, oh, it's just kissing, because I grew up in apartheid, maybe you did, I don't know how old you are. There was no song about kissing Boers, it was killing Boers. Now you can't sing that song today, because not everybody is going to see it in the historic context that you want them to see it. It doesn't make sense if given the kind of country that we have to build for all people of South Africa, diverse as we are, no matter how difficult it is sometimes.
Let's also listen back to some of the remarks that were made by the EFF leader a bit earlier on today.
The founding manifesto of the EFF says we will take power by all means necessary. And therefore revolutionaries, when confronted by that situation, should never think twice. Cowards are not for the revolution. The EFF must be known that it is not a playground for racists. That any racist that plays next to the EFF and threatens and beats up the membership and the leadership of the EFF, that is an application to meet your maker with immediate effect.
Malema not mincing his words there, but it's also interesting that he spoke on the issue about coalition politics, and interesting enough, saying that the EFF will never vote with the ANC in Ekurhuleni. Of course, this comes amidst the ANC's own effort to oust the incumbent Mayor Tanya Campbell through a motion of no confidence. What do you make of the EFF stance here?
Well, I mean, look, the EFF from the beginning used to have made it clear that they would vote with or against different parties on issues. They would not unite with them or, forever in a generic sense of the word. So we don't know. Nobody can say the EFF will or will not vote with the ANC. Everything depends on which side of their brain is need to be buttered. So the EFF, of course, will remain as an unpredictable force in South Africa. It's okay for them to do what they're doing. The system allows them to do that. What is not acceptable, but should never be acceptable, is for the EFF to make threats against anyone in South Africa. And the truth, whether we like it or not, racists come in all colors. And the EFF cannot be allowed to say, we're going to take power no matter what. There's got to be, if they can't win elections, they can't be in power, full stop.
But, I mean, the EFF leader, of course, he's often described as a flip-flopper, or criticized as a flip-flopper. Do you expect that the party might then also just change their tune when it comes to what they're saying now?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, the EFF used to be totally against state capture and Zuma. You remember how they became famous with their pay back the money song in Parliament. Even I supported them. Look, I voted for the EFF because of the way they stood against Zuma. And then the next day they seemed to be friends with Zuma. And remember that the ANC, there's not one ANC. We have the ANC that's aligned to Ramaphosa. Some people call it progressive. I don't know in what way it's progressive. We have the EFF that's aligned to Zuma, and we don't want the EFF. Sorry, the ANC that's aligned to Zuma. But Malema might side with one of them. The ANC is going to an elected conference in December. We don't know which way he's going to vote. He's been defending all the people who've done so wrong in South Africa. Look at Tom Moyane, who worked with Bain and Company and others to destroy SARS. Malema has been defending him. So Malema is a serious flip-flopper. You can never know what he really stands for. But he has now turned out to stand, to be supporting, to be siding with the people who've damaged South Africa's institutions over the past 10, 15 years. He cannot be trusted. The EFF cannot be trusted.
And as we wrap up, the leader of the Red Berets also spoke on the living conditions of the poor in the Western Cape and the rich people living on the better side in that province. What do you make of the EFF's message to lead this plight of the poor? Does it resonate with the electorate in that province, which is still a stronghold of the DA, and the ANC is still trying to gain more support there?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's very silly for any political party to say, let's look at the black people in the township in the Western Cape and not look at the black people in the townships in Johannesburg, Pretoria, Durban, and other places. The truth of the matter is that the plight of black people around the country has not improved much, but the truth also is that the Western Cape has been doing a lot better in governing public finances and municipalities than many other municipalities around the country. Several Auditor General reports have given the Western Cape or DA-governed municipalities in the Western Cape a better or cleaner bill of health than municipalities governed by other political parties around the country. So it's easy to look at the DA and say, yeah, you're not doing enough for black people. Is the ANC doing enough for black people? Look at the people now in Johannesburg who are running out of water, electricity, who are suffering. So do you think it would be okay for the DA to start looking at the black people in ANC or EFF or other coalition-governed municipalities and doing the same thing? It's just nonsense. It's political play. The fact of the matter is, whether you like the DA or not, is doing a lot better in municipalities that it manages than other parties. I'm not saying it's perfect, because no, it's far from perfect, but it's doing a lot better. So maybe the EFF should look at the black people in townships around the country, especially the Eastern Cape, people who are running to the Western Cape, to DA-controlled Western Cape, away from ANC-controlled Eastern Cape, and ask themselves why people are doing that, instead of looking at the people just in DA-controlled areas. The thing is, all of South Africa has got these race, the past stratification based on race. You've got black townships, colored townships, Indian townships, etc., all around the country. And in the world, in South Africa, all of South Africa, whoever governs any municipality in South Africa has to try and deal with those historic issues. It's not just an exclusively Western Cape problem. It's a South African problem.
That was political analyst and political commentator as well, Solly Moeng, giving his perspective there on utterances made by the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema.